Good morning, student. This is Anjali, Assistant Professor, Department of CSE, AIML, IARE, Hyderabad. Today we are discussing the questions based on all models. So first we will say, explain the term about persuasive communication. So the act of presenting arguments to move, motivate or change your audience is called a persuasion. Just the act, whatever you are presenting the arguments, your moves, your motivations, your changes, that is called the persuasion. Persuasion can be sometimes implicit or sometimes explicit also. So motivation mostly involves some force, a stimulus or influence for bringing about the changes. So motivation is just a stimulus while persuasion is the process, and it compels your audience to change their beliefs. Sometimes we can say the behavior. Even you have to adopt your place and you have to relate your arguments also. So this is about the persuasive communication. There are some common principles which are included in the persuasive communication. So first one is that reciprocity. What is meant by reciprocity? Reciprocity means we can say the expectations. For what expectations? So expectations for exchanging of the services, or we can say the values. You have to build a moment making people feel urged from social norms and standard to reciprocate once you take the lead and the give. So we can say the reciprocity is related to expectations, and sometimes we have to exchange our services and the values also. Then next one is the scarcity. What is meant by scarcity? The people generally attracted to something rare and exclusive. So scarcity may be idea of limited supply or inadequate resources. Then next one, authority. The trust is most important thing to the decision of the purchase. So your expertise needs to be known for you to gain the credibility. And the referencing expert and expertise involve the principle of the authority. So authority is just related to trust, and all over revolves around the trust, and because of that your expertise need to gain the credibility. Referencing experts and expertise involves some principle of the authority. Then next one is commitment and the consistency. Actually, it is very difficult sometimes for recalling and communication at all time. So the most important principle of commitment and the consistency brings some social standard of the respecting words to bear during the purchase. So this is the commitment and the consistency. Here, your commitment and consistency, we can recall our oral communication also. So your commitment and consistency, it can bring the some social standard respecting one words. Then consensus. Generally people tend to look at each other while making a purchase or a decision. Definitely while taking a decision we will discuss, we will communicate on it, and then we will take the decision. So the herd mentally prevails among a human at higher level across the humanity. So when we don't have enough information about the something, we tend to follow the other's path. Definitely, before taking any decision, before reaching to our main decision, we will discuss to another person on particular topic, and if we don't have any information about particular that thing, then we have to follow the other's path. Then next one is that liking. Actually, effective communication. Yesterday only we have discussed that about communication, effective communication. With the help of the effective communication, it's very helpful to make a rapport between the public, or we can say the audience and the speaker. So this effective communication goes hand in hand with safety. So we are more likely to make the conversation and interact only when we feel safe. Definitely, when we will feel the safe. At that time, our conversation will go in proper manner. So we are drawn to people who like us and communicate to us. So it is quite effective. Then next one is desired effects of persuasive communication. There are some objectives of persuasive communications. So those are, first one is the stimulate. So to strengthen their beliefs and bring them to foreground, facts need to be presented. Definitely, first, before presenting, first you have to strengthen beliefs and you have to bring them to foreground. Then next one, this way the issue is delivered to the surface. So definitely you can keep in mind that the common ground and shared beliefs and then introduce information that the audience may not be aware of. So the common ground serve as strategy to stimulate the interest. Now next one is the convince. First was stimulate, next one convince. Main objective is to bring the changes in beliefs, attitude, judgments and values of your audience. Definitely if we are speakers, so for us audience is very important and our objective should be very clear. So for the main objective is that to bring the change in beliefs, judgments, attitudes, and values of your audience. Your audience will not change very easily. So it up to you how you will convince, how you are giving the message to them. Then as the audience may involve their bias in judgment, they can plan a few valid points for them to listen and understand your topic. So if the audience agrees with you, mind that scarcity or problem exists, then they will look for the solution. And then you may refer your product as a better alternative and then recommend and improve future action. Definitely, if when audience will feel safe with you, then and only then audience can ask to you and they can clear their doubts. So after that, you can find out the solution for particular for them. Then next one is the call to action. So with this option, you call your audience to action by getting their attention. So the main objective call to action is that to create the curiosity, to solve the problem, then propose a range of the option as the solution. So the main effects of persuasive communication is stimulate, convince, and a call to action. We have seen the principles. Principle reciprocity. Reciprocity is totally related to the expectations. Then the scarcity. Scarcity are related to a limited supply or inadequate resources. Then authority. Authority is related to the trust. Then commitment and the consistency. Again, it's very difficult to recall our oral communication at all times. So definitely here one's words to bear during purchase. Then consensus. Consensus is related to making purchase or the decision. We can say the decision. So making any decision, we have to discuss on it, and then if we don't have any information regarding particular topic, then definitely we have to follow the other's path. Then liking is related to total your effective communication. Then we have seen the effects: stimulate, convince, call to action. Now what are 5 P's of the presentation? So first one is the preparation. We have to discuss here 5 P's. First one is preparation. If you are nervous about drying up and forgetting what you are about to say during a presentation, make sure you know your subject matter inside out and you can't do enough research beforehand. So definitely preparation is saying that if you are feeling nervous then definitely you have to know about your topic. You have to take the information, all information related to our topic, because after presenting, or at the time of presenting, it's not possible to take the information as soon as possible. So there is very important to take the knowledge related to topic. Then it's also important to know your audience. You have to know your audience, how they are, what are their requirement, at what time your pitch should be high, and at what time your pitch should be low. So with this speech, it will be very easy to understand your audience. Don't go over their hates or leave out important background detail they may not be aware of. Sometimes we should not go over hates. We should not use so much technical words. So we have to use those words which are very aware about it. Then next one is that the practice, it's cringe inducing but essential to rehearse your presentation in advance. So definitely, before presenting, you have to rehearse about it. If you can't rope in friend, family member to listen to you, do it in front of the mirror and go through it repeatedly so the words become the familiar. So you could also record yourself on your laptop or phone, but be warned, you are probably going to hear or see something really annoying, whether it's overusing, like or like, or bobbing your head around. So these things we have to keep in mind. Practice is very important. You have to rehearse your presentation in front of mirror. So it will with this help, we can remove our nervousness, and at the same time you can record your speech, you can record your voice on phone, laptop. So it will be very easy to analyze our speech and analyze our communication. Then next one is the power pauses. Power poses are just open, sometimes expansive posture that use body language to express power, confidence, and the assertiveness. So widened body posture and claiming physical space is natural nonverbal method communication that humans use to assert themselves. Then the pictures, the number of one mistake people make with slide for PowerPoint presentation is putting lots of text on them. So definitely, with the text, we have to use some pictures, some graphs, because your audience will read any text on them faster than you can read it aloud and stop listening to you. So mostly your audience will read whatever you have written, and they will not listen to you. So at that time, better you keep the text less and attract your audience by only speaking. So you will notice them looking bored and freaked out. So it will be very worse. So you can keep the data very less, and you can keep with text, like a picture, maps, some images. So the audience will feel very interesting. So don't make yourself redundant. You are there to tell the story, not the slides. Now next one is the presence. It's not about what you say. It's the way that you say it. Definitely, it's not about what you are saying. It's that how you are saying. People will generally remember only a fraction of the actual information in your presentation, but their impression of you will stick. So definitely, so take to that stage like you own the place, introduce yourself confidently, keep your shoulder back, your head up, smile, and make eye contact with people in the audience. So it will show the presence of yours with the audience, and it will help to communicate with your audience. So these are 5 P's. First, preparation, practice, power poses, pictures and the presence. Next one is explain different parts of line graphs. So line graph is also known as line plot, line chart. So this graph is that uses a line for connecting the different data points. Definitely line graph is line graph is containing some data points and we are connecting those data points. And the line graph displays quantitative values over the specified time interval. So there are parts of the line graph. Generally line graph may vary, it will depends on some features or formatting. So first one is that the title. Title is very important. Line graph is containing x-axis, y-axis, and here we can show that coordinates will connect with each other. Line graphs may have a title about the graph to succinctly explain what the graph is depicting. That means it is showing the what about that graph is. So unless you provide user with written context, the user will often rely on the title to better understand what data is being pulled in. So again, it will show the what related data also it will show. Then the title sometimes specifically call out time frame or limits of the data. So appropriate title for compound line graph will be like level of the US dry land by year 2000 to 2015. Next one is the legend. Legend explain what each dependent variable is and how to distinguish different sets of the data. And for example, each independent variable is marked with its own color. So there will be so many variables. Every variable has its own color, and we can show the legend explain the each dependent variable is what each dependent variable is and how it will be distinguished from different sets of the data. Then the box can explain what each color means is the legend. Then next one is the data. Each item of the data in an online graph like is a reference to different source that ties the dependent variable to the independent variable. So this is just information on your graph. It's an item. It will create the dots that get connected by using the lines on your chart. So for example, multiple sets of data combined into the single line graph. Just we can say like this. Next one is the x-axis. X-axis just we can say set of the information that runs along the horizontal line flat portion at the bottom of the line graph. And that line graph generally x-axis totally related to the time. Sometimes it is different months in the year or number of weeks. It depends which data you are taking. Then y-axis set of the information that will run along the vertical left side of the graph. And so here some iteration of the line graph will be available. Set of information on the right hand side will be available, and in this case some numbers count the item be measured. So the graph may start at 0, and though there are instances where it makes more sense to start at higher number. Now next one is the line. The line connects all data points within single dependent variable. Dependent variable. I'm not saying about the independent variable. I'm saying about the dependent variable. So this line movement shows increase and decrease of the information across the time, and it can also compared against the other line as long as all data sets being measured over similar periods of the time. So the line can communicate to the management what action should be taken to improve the operations or strategic planning. Then next one is why we need sampling distribution in big data analytics. We can say the primary purpose of sampling distribution is to establish the representative results of small samples as compared to large population. So it will help to researchers and analysts to dig up to find out the information about the population and get a closer look into the small group of population, so they can create some result. They can predict some result on the base of the population. So we have to gather our data and or statistic and it will be used to calculate some occurrences or probability related to event. Then using sampling distribution, we can simplify the process of making inferences, or we can find out, we can reach to the conclusion also by using the large amount of the data. Next one, explain the formula of logistic regression. Actually, logistic regression is, we can say that, so it's a supervised machine learning algorithm, and it accomplishes some binary classification task. So which type of task? Like predicting the probability and outcome, event or observation. So this model, the model delivers binary or dichotomous outcome, which are totally limited to two possible outcome, like yes or no, 0 or 1, true or false, like that. So generally 0 will represent the negative class, 1 will represent the positive class, and the logistic regression, it's used for the binary classification problem where the outcome variable reveals either two categories like 0 or 1. So there is an equation for the logistic regression. Y is equal to e to the power b0 plus b1x divided by 1 plus e to the power b0 plus b1x. So this is where we are using a sigmoid function. X is your input value. X is your input value. Y is your predicted outcome. B0 is your bias, and B1 is coefficient of input. So here actually this equation is similar to linear regression. Here we are taking input values, we are combining linearly for predicting the outcome values. So unlike linear regression, output value modeled here is binary value 0 or 1 rather than the numeric value. So here this is your x-axis, y-axis. Y is equal to 0. Here y is equal to 1. This shape is like a S-shaped curve, and the predicted y lies between 0 and 1 range. So there are some key properties of the logistic regression equation. First one, logistic regression dependent variable obeys Bernoulli distribution. Then estimation and prediction is totally based on your maximum likelihood. And the last one, logistic regression does not evaluate the coefficient of determination like R squared as observed in linear regression. Instead, the model's fitness is assessed through the concordance. So these properties we have to follow. First, logistic regressions totally using the dependent variable, and it will follow the Bernoulli's distribution. Estimation prediction is totally based on the maximum likelihood value, and the logistic regression does not evaluate the coefficient of the determination. Then next one is explain the points of estimation. So the point of estimator are defined as functions that can be used to find approximate value related to approximate value of particular point from the population parameter. Definitely in point of estimation we are using the population parameter, and in population parameter we have to find out some approximate point. We have to find out some approximate value. So sample data of population is totally used for finding the point estimate or statistic, which can act like best estimate of unknown parameter, unknown population parameter. So some common formula we have to include: maximum likelihood estimation, Jeffrey estimation, Wilson estimation, and the Laplace estimation. Now there are some properties. First property is consistent. We can say that if you are using the larger sample size, so you will get the more accurate estimations. Then unbiased. Unbiased, again, it is related to expectations of the observed values, which are observed values, various sample equals the corresponding population parameter. We can take the example like sample mean is unbiased estimator for the population mean. Then next one, most efficient, that is also known as based unbiased. So all the various consistent unbiased estimates, then one processing the smallest variance. So a major amount of dispersion away from the estimate. So in simple word, we can say that estimator varies least from sample to sample, and this generally depends on particular distribution of the population. Now next question is, explain data transformation functions which serves within the data analytics stack. So data transformation, what is meant by data transformation? The data transformation is just a mutation of the data characteristic for improving your access and or storage. So transformation may occur like a format, structure, values of the data, and with this regard data analytics, so transformation generally occurs after the extracted or the loaded. So for this we can use the ETL and ELT method. So data transformation, definitely it will increase the efficiency of the analytic process and enable data driven decisions. So raw data is difficult to analyze. If there is raw data available, so it will be very difficult to analyze, and actually that data is vast in the quantity to derive meaningful insight. So hence we will need for cleaning your data and the usable data. So during whenever we will perform the transformation process, at that time analyst or engineer will determine definitely the data structure. So there are some common types of the data transformation. First one is the constructive. Constructive means it will contain the data transformation process, adds, copies, replicates your data. Then destructive, if there are fields and records are available, then we can delete the data. Aesthetic, transformation standard the data to meet requirement of or the parameter. We have to check that our data is meeting particular requirement or not. Then structural, the database is recognized by renaming, moving or combining the columns. Next, transformation process generally follows 6 stages. First one is the data discovery. What is meant by data discovery? In data discovery, first data team work for understanding and identifying the applicable raw data. So by profiling data, some engineers or analysts can understand the transformation that need to occur. Then next one, data mapping. In this phase, analysts will determine how individual fields are modified, matched, filtered, joined and aggregated. Next one, data extraction. Data is moved from source system to the target system, source to destination, and extraction may include structured or unstructured. That means databases or even streaming log files also. Then next one, code generation and the execution. Once extracted and loaded, transformation need to occur on the raw data to store it in the appropriate for BI and analytic use. So once you have done extracted and loaded, after that it will occur on the raw data for storing it in the proper format. So this is frequently accomplished by analytic engineer. They can write the SQL or Python to programmatically transform the data. So this data is executed daily or hourly to provide timely and appropriate analytic data. Then review. Once you have implemented, code needs to be reviewed and checked to ensure that correct and appropriate implementation. Then next one is the sending. Final step involves sending data to the target destination, and the target might be a data warehouse or other database in the structured format. Now next one is that explain the techniques of the data discretization. Actually this data discretization technique is very complex and laborious. So we can say the concept hierarchies for numerical attributes because broad diversity of the applicable data ranges and that it frequent the updates of the data values. So there are different concept, different hierarchy generation of the numeric data are available. So first one is that the binning. What is meant by binning? Binning is just one splitting technique. So we can say that top to bottom splitting technique, which is totally based on the number of bins. How many number of bins we have to use while splitting. So it's up to you, and it's a it depends on your data. So these methods are used, discretization method for numerosity reduction and concept hierarchy generation. So this technique can be used recursively to the resulting partitions and make concept hierarchy. Binning does not use any class data because it is and is therefore an unsupervised discretization technique. So it is susceptible to user specified number of bins and the presence of the outliers. Then next one, histogram analysis. Like binning, histogram analysis is also unsupervised discretization. Binning also unsupervised discretization technique because it is also not using any class data. So histogram partition values for the attribute A into disjoint ranges known as the bucket. Here we will use the bucket. So in an equal width histogram, for example, the values are partitioned into equal size partition or ranges for the price. So where each bucket has a width of the $10. So with equal frequency histogram, the values are partitioned so that each partition contains same number of the data tuples. Now entropy based discretization. Actually, entropy is generally used discretization measures. So first introduced by which was introduced by Claude Shannon in their pioneering work, Information Theory and Concept of Information Gain. So information based discretization is supervised top-down splitting technique. Even binning also top-down splitting technique. So it explores the some class distribution data, its computation and determination of split points. Now next one is the cluster analysis. Cluster analysis is again most common method for the data discretization method, and clustering algorithm we can apply to discretize numerical attribute A partition into the clusters or the group. So clustering generally consider distribution of A as well as the closeness of data point, and we can produce the high quality discretization result. So clustering can be used to generate concept hierarchy for A following either top down strategy or bottom up merging. If you are doing from top to bottom, then at that times we have to do splitting. If we are working from bottom to upper, then you have to use merging. So each cluster form node of the concept hierarchy. Now next one is give the four major components of the data science and explain it. First one is data strategy. First you have to need to develop the data strategy. You have to check the requirement, and for that you have to decide what data to collect and why you have to collect. So even here sometimes we have to ignore some insufficient data also. To be clear, here we are not discussing any methodology, just we are discussing what we have to decide, what we have to collect, and why we are collecting all type of data, and why we have to perform this technique. Everything here we have to decide, every strategy we have to follow in the data science by using some particular strategy. Then next one is the mathematical models and the data analysis. First use case pertains to what science has always done. Then gather the knowledge, and when possible, if possible, build a model for using the data to make the predictions. Then second one is use case similar to what engineers have historically done with the math. Previously, what they have done, leveraging their expertise to develop the tools that support people for performing some task faster or more effectively than the people could. Then next one, data engineering. The use of some technologies and systems to access, organize and utilize data, that is called the data engineering, definitely. So it entails the development of software to address data related to issues. So these solutions often start with Some creating data system, we have to follow the design of the data pipelines and endpoints within it. So this may require integrating a large number of different technologies. Next one, operating and the visualization. Because again, operating and visualization is also very important thing. Operationalization is more generic concept. Simply we can express it refers to the notion you will act on the data and at hand like after, but we have to perform this thing after analysis and the modeling. And for example, we can draw conclusion or take the another action. So generally data or analysis of data is totally represented when human as opposed to a bot makes the determination or takes that particular action. So person tasked with interpreting data, science results, and the visualization is frequently it's the simplest way for explaining the meaning of the data and what we have studied. So these are the references. You can go through these things. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.